2 minutes until showtime. Hang in there, call your friends. Tonight is going to be epic.
Fox News. President Trump hosting a rally in Carson City, Nevada.
The president will remain in Las Vegas tonight. He'll head to Tucson and Prescott, Arizona for two separate rallies tomorrow. Then he'll go back to the East Coast for more rallies. Aides close to the campaign say to expect to see President Trump out on the trail many more days until Election Day. And don't forget the first debate with Joe Biden since their last debate that they had in Nashville on Thursday.
Fox's David Spunt. With a close race in North Carolina, Joe Biden campaigned there today in Durham, where his side criticized the president's response to the pandemic.
Things are getting worse. He continues to lie to us about the circumstances. Experts say we're likely to lose as many as 200,000 additional lives nationwide between now and the end of the year. All because this president cares more about his Park Avenue perspective on the world, the stock market, than he does about you.
The latest poll shows Biden with less than a 3-point lead over President Trump in North Carolina. The Senate Judiciary Committee is planning to vote this week on whether to subpoena Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey. Republicans accuse Twitter of censorship for blocking a New York Post story about Hunter Biden and his alleged dealings with foreign businesses.
Lawmakers from both parties appear eager to rein in the power of social media companies and big tech conglomerates, but for different reasons. Congressional Republicans and President Trump are outraged Twitter blocked links to a New York Post story alleging improper behavior by Joe Biden's son, Hunter. Since then, Twitter has backtracked and allowed the story to be shared, facing the circulation. This week, the Senate Judiciary Committee is going to consider whether or not to subpoena Twitter's CEO over this matter.
Fox's Mark Meredith. America is listening to Fox News.
The holidays are just around the corner. You must unite. What is this?
We are TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
Greetings, Earth Explorers. Welcome to X Squared Radio. I'm your host, Brooks Agnew. coming to you live from an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains. This is where the past meets the future, and here the results are always positive. We might go a little past your imagination, but have no fear. We'll be safely traveling with us. Let me begin by saying my condolences to upwards of 20 of my friends and colleagues who were casualties of war on Thursday. They were terminated by YouTube. 20 families plunged into poverty, millions and millions and millions of subscribers sent scattering to the winds, all because YouTube did not like what they were broadcasting on. They were all patriots. May you land safely, my friends, and you are always welcome here. Always. Red Pill, X22, Space Shot, Amazing Molly, Polly, all of you are welcome here anytime. Some of us escaped. I think Citizen Man escaped. I escaped. Others were just under the threshold, but it won't be long. They'll be coming for us. Let me give you my Religion of Peace report. In the last 7 days, the Religion of Peace conducted 33 attacks. In these 33 attacks, they killed 182 innocent people. They injured 113 innocent people. No suicide blasts in the last 7 days. And they limited their mayhem to just 11 countries. All of this from the Religion of Peace. I give this to you every week, and at the end of the year, I will total it all up. There's so much going on. It's going to be difficult to find the truth out there, but you can always tune in here, and get it straight. We cover amazing things that happen in the universe and on the earth, and I try my best to connect the dots from the future, from the past, and bring them to you here in the present, so that you will know where to stand. Because very soon this world will need putting back together again. So SpaceX has done it again. They launched Starlink 60 new satellites and they nailed the landing. SpaceX successfully launched a full stack of Starlink internet satellites today and capped off the mission with a successful rocket landing at sea. I'm going to see if I can show you this while I am. Let's see here. I do have it up. It's right here. Yeah. All right, watch this. This is really cool. I'll let you watch this while I am on doing this. All right, here we go. Just to give you a little idea what this looks like. It's way cool. A two-stage Falcon 9 rocket blasted off from NASA's historic Pad 39A here at NASA's Kennedy Space Center at 8:25 Eastern Time this morning, carrying 60 new Starlink satellites for SpaceX's growing constellation in orbit. Approximately 9 minutes later, the booster first stage returned to Earth. You can see it there on the left-hand side. It's kind of letting out the little pads to steer it, and you can see the retro rockets firing to steer it to the landing pad that's floating in the water. It was nothing but blue skies over the Space Coast today. It was gorgeous, gorgeous blue skies today. A great way to start off a Sunday, I'll tell you. Known as B-1051, the booster featured in today's flight now has 6 launches and 6 landings under its belt. The second Falcon 9 to do so. This frequent flyer has ferried 4 different Starlink payloads to space, as well as a trio of Earth-observing satellites for Canada and an uncrewed Dragon spacecraft for NASA's Demo 1 mission back in 2019. The landing today marked the 62nd recovery of a Falcon first stage since SpaceX recovered its first booster all the way back in 2015. Today's flight marked the 18th launch of 2020 for SpaceX and the 95th Falcon 9 flight to date. SpaceX has had a busy summer and could have had the busiest launch year yet. Currently, that record belongs to 2018 when the company launched 21 times. The achievement is facilitated by SpaceX's fleet of flight-proven boosters. That's the main reason why there's so much value in this. You can see how high it's going. There's about 23,000 miles an hour. Or, I'm sorry, 23,000 kilometers per hour, and it's an altitude of 167 miles. There you can see the booster landing. Isn't that cool? That booster landing right there on a sea-based pad. That's just something else, isn't it? Very, very cool stuff. All right, let's get back to our main screen here. Oh, you didn't see it because I didn't switch it over. Well, how about that? Let's try it again. Hold on a second. Let's go back. Let's do it one more time. This is very cool. Because you really have to see it. It's kind of cool. I watched it. I don't know if you were watching it or not, but let's do it. Because it's a very cool thing to see. All right, here we go. All right, let's go back to the shared screen. And then I will transfer this there. Now you can see it. How about that? Yeah, see, now you can watch the whole thing. We'll watch the whole thing together again. It's about cool. So now it's packing more than 1.7 million pounds of thrust. The upgraded Falcon 9 has performed reliably for the most part. Let's see. Since launching its first payload way back in 2018, had a couple of repairs now and then, but by and large, it's kind of nice to recover those things intact. A communication satellite for Bangladesh was way back then. With that launch, the company bid farewell to the moderately reusable Falcons of the past, ushering in a new era where the same rocket has the capability of flying many, many times. Ever since, SpaceX has been working to hone its reusable rocket technology. It's kind of Flash Gordon stuff. It's way cool. Its track record with flight-proven rockets has even earned the company the right to launch military and national security payloads, as well as astronauts on previously flown rockets. SpaceX has grand ambitions to help make humanity a multi-planetary species. In order to help fund its Mars ambitions, the company developed a plan to blanket the Earth with internet coverage, not from cell towers, not from the ground, but beamed from space, a tightly knit menagerie of broadband satellites. This mega constellation would consist of thousands of satellites flying close to the planet in a region of space called low Earth orbit. The internet satellite network would be a way for SpaceX and its CEO Elon Musk to generate revenue for Mars exploration and the necessary hardware, the more advanced rockets and other spacecraft. Musk has estimated that the Starlink service could generate as much as $30 billion a year, give you a discount based on what you're spending right now for internet. And even though no pricing schedule has been established yet, the nice thing about it is you won't be paying taxes to get this anymore. It will be all private money. The burgeoning internet service is currently going through a private beta testing program where company employees have been putting the broadband service through its paces. There, here you go. Watch this landing. There's the sea-based platform, and you can see, here it comes. You can see the thrust and touchdown. Look at that. Isn't that spectacular? That is like totally Flash Gordon. So that's the first stage, coming to a nice soft landing right there on the pad. I'm just totally impressed with the technology it takes to be able to do this. So SpaceX created its Starlink mega constellation with one goal in mind, and that was to provide affordable internet to just about everybody. That was the plan, and it looks like it's coming along nicely. To that end, the company initially planned for a fleet of 1,440 satellites, but has since obtained approval for thousands more. What does this do? Well, it allows for lots and lots of satellites to be put up so that you get better coverage. As you know, when you get out into the country, like we're kind of sort of in the country a little bit. We just got fiber cable the other day out here. So we're kind of struggling with that. We don't know. I don't even know if it's smooth enough for tonight's broadcast or not. But yeah, we had old style wired cable out here. That's where our internet comes through. It would be so nice to just have an antenna on the house and you get a nice stream of very fast internet. Now, there are still regulatory hurdles to overcome and more satellites to launch before the service can be offered globally, but initial testing is very promising. As a result, the company plans to open up the beta testing to the public sometime in the near future. SpaceX created its Starlink mega constellation with one goal in mind, and that is to get everybody this internet. The Federal Communications Commission has granted SpaceX permission to launch as many as 12,000 of the flat panel broadband satellites, but SpaceX may not stop there. The company has indicated it will see approval to launch as many as 30,000 of its internet beaming satellites to beam down high-speed, low-latency internet signals. It also makes it virtually impossible to stop anywhere. Can't take all the internet down. Right now we have ground-based servers and ground-based antennas, and we sort of shoot that stuff around the surface. And if you have a router at your house, you can get internet on your phone or your tablet. I'm direct wired in with this desktop unit. That's why I have the speeds that I do. I don't have a router connected to this computer. We're connected straight to the fiber optic. The state is one of several, let's see what we're talking about. Which state? Washington State. It's one of the several in the western U.S. that has been devastated by the wildfires this year. In August, emergency responders were given several user terminals to connect to the broadband network so that they could have access to reliable internet service to help the region battle and do so and communicate while they're on the ground. Washington State's Emergency Management Department thanked SpaceX for the access to the Starlink network. The tweet that they sent out earlier this month also included a look at the user terminals, which Musk has described as a UFO on a stick, boasted their simplicity, saying anyone could connect one with ease, according to a report from CNBC. Let's see, a couple of months ago, SpaceX used Starlink to connect the administration building and homes on the Hoh Native American Reservation in western Washington to high-speed internet. The Hoh are a Native American tribe living at the mouth of the Hoh River in western Washington state on the Pacific coast. This remote location had previously hindered access to high-speed broadband, but after the Starlinks were installed, the tribe went from practically zero connectivity to high-speed internet overnight. What a difference high-speed internet can make. Hoh tribe officials wrote on Twitter this month that their children can participate in remote learning, residents can access health care. We felt like we'd been paddling upriver with a spoon, and Starlink made it happen overnight. SpaceX hopes to roll out coverage to the U.S. and Canada by the end of the year. I had a factory not far from here. It took me about 23 minutes to drive from this office to my office at the plant. Now, because we were the only manufacturer in that industrial park, guess what? We didn't have any internet. Nope. To get internet in that industrial park was $26,000. We decided to pass. So we got a broadband router. We connected it to, I think it was Verizon. And it was wonderful until about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so many people were on that signal that it slowed to nothing. We couldn't even send an email. It was ridiculous. We paid a pretty high monthly rate for that broadband router from Verizon, and it was pretty much worthless. What a difference our manufacturing would have been like if we'd have had access to Starlink then. So a lot of you are out there wondering about this, and I thought I would cover the story to begin with tonight. Also, so that the troopers down at Sensor Central would get bored with this broadcast and say, they're not talking about anything political. Let's go to the next guy. This is just scientific stuff. We're so bored with this. Are you bored yet? Yeah, I think you are. All right. You want to switch to stuff? We can switch to stuff. By the way, the phone lines are open. So if you want to call in, it's 213-233-3998. I have already communicated to some of my displaced expatriates who have been pushed out of YouTube. Some of them lost as many as 1 million subscribers. Do you have any idea how long it takes to build up 1 million subscribers? One of my friends had over 225,000 subscribers. It took him 10 years to build that audience. It was a loyal audience that bought things from his sponsors, gave him top chats, and made it possible for him to do it every single day and take care of his girlfriend and his cats, and everything was wonderful. And he had a great career ahead of him. And he's very good at what he does. He has a good voice, he has a good presence, he has good technology, and he's a smart guy. In 1 minute, 60 seconds flat, YouTube plunged him into poverty. Now, I don't mind telling you, I was a little concerned when I overheard him as he was over at a friend's broadcast place on another platform, trying to at least lick his wounds, and he was doing a good job covering it up, but he'd also lost his cat the night before. That was very devastating. Had to put his cat to sleep. That is no easy thing to do when you put a pet to sleep, and then you lose your business overnight, just like that, for doing nothing. Doing nothing. He complied with every single regulation. No profanity. Everything was on the up and up, and they just closed him down just like that. Not only did he lose all of his subscribers, he lost his channel. He didn't even have his own subscriptions. Couldn't even click on a subscription because they were gone. So he decided, well, I'll start over again. I'll build another channel. So he went on another email address and started another YouTube channel. And within 40 minutes, they tracked him down and shut that channel down. That's what we're dealing with. That's the war. We're going to cover that a little bit tonight, but I give out the phone number just in case any one of my expatriate friends, and you know who you are, you may or may not be listening right now, but some of my listeners are their listeners. If you want to talk, if you want to get your frustrations off your chest, if you want to share your thoughts or your analysis of everything that's happened this week, you're free to come on, okay? And I'm here for 3 hours. So we're all friends in this. We're all in this together. We're not competing with one another. We are now the mainstream media. All right. Let's talk a little bit about a guidebook. This is not a guidebook that you would find in most places. Nevertheless, it is well distributed. It is a guidebook for destroying America. In order to ensure a fair election, the far left activist group is a nonprofit called Shut Down DC. Yeah, don't you love it? They've published an online disruption guide with detailed instructions for comrades about how to respond to Donald Trump potentially winning a second term in the White House. Available as a Google Doc, this Stopping the Coup guide posits that the president is already planning a coup in order to win re-election. The coup is against the government that's in power, not the one that's already in power. Anyway, and that is up to the liberals to prevent him from stealing the election and remaining in office. Wow. Hang on a second. I got to have a hit. This is something else. Yeah, I doubled up on my placebos right before the program. I'm sure they're going to help. The only way to do this, the guide suggests, is to unleash, and I quote, sustained disruptive movements all over the country, close quote, creating confusion and chaos, according to Shutdown DC, will ensure that the election results are fair, meaning, of course, not Trump. In the context of a coup or highly contested election, we need to be clear that our actions must directly affect the structures and the pillars of power, the guide explains. Our largest asset in this regard utilizes the ideas of non-compliance through massive, broad-based direct action. We call those riots. Where we can, we need to be in the streets. We need to clog the highways or at the sites of power and power holders. Leftists who work are encouraged to boycott, to strike, or otherwise slow down the gears of their companies in order to prevent those taking control from attaining the legitimacy of the power they seek. Shutdown DC also maintains that those in opposition to Trump need to publicly reject the election results, which the group is already expecting will create an illegitimate ruling party. You're getting the idea, aren't you? And by the way, these efforts are very well funded. They're well funded, they're well publicized, and the reason that I am on tonight, no, it's not a red placebo. What are you talking about? It's just, you know what a placebo is, right? It's a complex mixture that makes you think that you're doing something that you're really not doing, okay? But I'm thinking that I'm doing it, so it's the same as doing it. That's placebo. Yes, I agree. Mad Pogue says he's a strong dude. He has friends. He has our love. We're stronger than the thugs' tactics. It's true. I mean, everybody knows who we're talking about. Red. And that's okay. There are others. There's X-22. There's Space Shot. There's SGT. There are about 20 of them. I could mention them all. And I'm just blown away that they could. This is a coup. That's a coup. I mean, when in World War II, when the Nazis came to power, there was the semblance of free press in Germany. And they printed flyers. They printed newspapers and what they called small newspapers or pamphlets that went out. And what they did is they kind of told about the politics of the day. And the politics of the day were, hey, this new party, this new Nazi party has come to power, and they're a bunch of thugs, and, you know, the long knives, and they're assassinating people and embezzling money. And guess what they did? Yeah, they went and they smashed the presses, and they shot the publishers. They made sure that the word did not get out. In France, they called them partisans. Partisans, these were people that ran underground. And they spread information. They spread disinformation. They kept the Nazi Party off their feet the whole time that they were taking over one country after another in Western Europe. Well, that's what we're talking about here, except that the masters of the universe, as some call them, YouTube and Google and Twitter and these organizations, they have so much money. They have so much power. How did they get the money? How did they get the power? You gave it to them. You gave it to them. You remember MySpace? Neither do I. I had a MySpace. I had 6 followers. Big deal. YouTube is where people come. YouTube is the mall. YouTube is the mall. So if you go to the mall and you're walking down the mall and you're minding your own business, you're carrying your bag from the previous store, whether it's, you know, designer chocolates or sports tennis shoes or whatever it is that you're buying when you're at the mall, it would be like the mall going to one of those stores and saying, hey, we don't like you displaying the American flag in your store. You're out of here. We don't like your politics. We don't like your race. We don't like your age. We don't like the fact you wear glasses. Stupid stuff. And so they just kick them out of the mall. Well, you think to yourself, wait a minute, if you keep doing this, the mall's going to go out of business, right? Well, yes, eventually it would if it's a small enough mall. I mean, you don't go to the anchors and kick them out. I mean, the anchors are probably on your side, right? But the point is, if you're in that mall and you have a store and you're doing your business and you're paying your commissions to the mall, they should be happy with you, right? They should be happy. because you're bringing viewers. That's what we do. We bring viewers. The viewers then see the commercials that stores buy on our broadcasts. They react to those commercials. They buy those products. And thus, the people that put their ads on our programs are happy. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Don't go away. Don't go away. Hang in there, YouTubers. Hang on in, everyone.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. September 2018. Extendivite works in keeping my blood pressure in the normal range. I've been using Extendivite for many years now. May 2018. Great product. I use regularly and I rarely get sick. March 2018. This product has relieved what appeared to be angina pain in my chest and shortness of breath after climbing stairs. I'm quite happy about it. February 2018. My husband, son, and I have been using this product for a few months now, and we have noticed an improvement in our joints and pressure and blood. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. Municipalities can't keep up, standards have dropped, and pollutants are increasing. Where does it all end? It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing chlorine, odors, iron, lead, chemicals, limescale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether you're from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death. This is Uncle Walt from the Ironworks. Josh, Corey, and I have chosen to look at life with no fear. No fear of the unknown. No fear of questions about the supposedly well-known. No fear of ridicule for thinking outside the familiar fool's lines. No fear of the boot on the neck of those refusing the party line. No fear of taking on those so convinced of their beliefs they would sooner drink the Kool-Aid than believe they've been fools made. In this world filled with me too, cattle think, can truth's protective layers be peeled back to show the tender, juicy pink? Are we all just grist for the mill? Souls sold against our will, that just is how it feels. When you're filled to the rim with triviality so fear-filled and grim, break clear of the fear right here. Tuesdays and Fridays at 2 a.m. on TFR. Josh and I and you will hammer out the impurities of technology-driven groupthink, fold in a dash of logic, and quench it all with a bit of absurdity. The Ironworks. Break clear of the fear.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
No hate, no hype, no fear. Real people, real radio.
All right, welcome back. American life must stop if election goes to Trump. That's what these shutdown DC people are saying. Under no circumstances should Trump be allowed to stay in office. Shutdown DC goes on to contend, warning that American life will need to stop in the event that Trump and his administration refuse to vacate the White House. That's whether they win or whether they lose. In order to really win, we will need to force some pillars of power, business, military, media, and other major institutions, to decide to side with the people, or at least get out of the way, its guide goes on to explain. If everyday life goes on, a despot will not leave power, and so there will be no incentive for real systems change. You want to think about what it might be like to stop business as usual. While claiming to not be supporters of Joe Biden either, Shutdown DC does not present any type of scenario in which a Trump win might be legitimate. In other words, Trump winning will automatically mean that the election was stolen, necessitating further agitation. Shutdown DC is of the persuasion that Fox News, and likely the president himself, may try to declare Trump the victor before the votes are counted. There's also worry that Attorney General William Barr might try to throw out mail-in ballots, a scenario that Shutdown DC says will require direct action. Now, a lot of mail-in ballots are being thrown out because they're duplicates, or because they don't have signatures, or because they're already opened. There are a lot of reasons why mail-in ballots are being thrown out. Now, I understand, and we'll talk about this later in the program tonight, there's an organization I call Ballots R Us. Ballots R Us is a professional organization that curates ballots for Democrats. And what happens is once the election is over, if a Republican has won that precinct, they pick up the phone, call it Ballots R Us. Ballots R Us brings a rental truck over, dumps a bunch of ballots into the system, they count them, and then the Democrat wins. That happened in 9 precincts in California. It happened in every precinct in Pennsylvania, and it is going to stop this time. Those who should be prepared to take action against those who are feeding into the stolen election narrative, including social media companies, that would be us right here, that are letting falsehoods or incitements to violence spread. Well, we're not inciting violence. We're inciting intelligence. Because people that tune into this program realize that we treat, cure, and prevent the disease of ignorance. In the end, the actual electorate might be split, half truly believing that Trump was elected legally, and half knowing that he was not. It adds the insinuation again, being that there is no possible scenario in which Trump can win re-election legally. No matter the outcome, Shutdown DC is prepared to take action because it says it cannot wait to see how the chips fall. Doing this would only ensure more power for the violent, while supremacist machine that is the Trump administration and its supporters continue. The Stopping the Coup document, and I'm going to go ahead and leave the link to this in here. It'll be in my notes that you can access by going to my website at americafreeradio.com. Click on the notes button, go to this year, go to this Sunday, and you can download these notes and read it for yourself. I'm going to do it for your enlightenment, not for you to align yourselves with Shutdown DC. But we're all about the truth here. We want to get the truth out so that the truth can be known. And once you know the truth, then you'll be empowered to make your own decisions. The Stopping the Coup document appears to be the product of a group called Disruption Project, also a nonprofit. They advocate for the United States to be taken over in a revolution non-violently. Now, I think you see what's going on. I think you have figured out what's going on. To save America, this is what needs to happen. It's becoming increasingly clear, even to the fake stream media outlets, that things are really unlikely to return to normal after the 2020 election. I thought about this the other day. think I went to the bank or something, and I just wanted to get something notarized, like the good old days. And I had a mask. It was in my pocket. I didn't really feel like wearing it, but I would if I had to go in and get this notarized and get it over with. I went to the bank, and there was a guy outside the bank with a clipboard, and he had a mask on, and he said, "Do you have an appointment?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, you'll have to make an appointment." I said, "Fine, let's make one." He said, "Oh, well, you have to do that online, and we're booked up for this week." I said, "This week? You mean today or this afternoon, right?" "No, all of our appointments are taken for the week." I looked around the parking lot. I said, "There's only one car here. What, you only got one desk inside? You only got one banker working inside? I just need something notarized. You could come out here in the parking lot and do it on the hood of my truck. I've signed a lot of documents on the hood of that truck." No, you'll have to make an appointment online. And like I said, we're booked up this week." I said, I was really mad at that point because I thought to myself, wow, you did this in 1933? Yep. People came to the bank to do business and the bank was closed. Yes, no business today. We're on holiday today, bank holiday. But my money's on the inside of the bank. Well, yes and no. I mean, your deposit's on the inside of the bank, but you see, it's our money. It's our money. And if we decide to close the doors and go to New York or London with your money, there's nothing you can do to stop us. And that's exactly what they did. They extracted billions of dollars out of the middle class and left us with nothing. But I said, you did this in 1933, and I really would like to have my country back. He said, "I really think it's time for you to leave." I wasn't going to be 911, so I left. And I have not been back to the bank since. I got it notarized somewhere else. That's what I did. Didn't go to the bank. I paid a little bit of money and I got it notarized. The massive and unprecedented meddling by China also will never be forgotten. Nope. It will never be forgotten. The locking down of the greatest economy and placing Americans in solitary confinement for 9 months has changed us. It has scarred us deeply. It may be generations before we emerge with our smiles intact. In fact, I asked a girl the other day, I forget what we were doing, just bringing something to the table. She was a waitress or something. And I said, "Are you smiling?" She said, "I am." I said, "Well, I couldn't tell with your mask on, but I just thought I would ask." You see what I'm saying? And if about half the country regards the winning president as legitimate, where do we go from there? Where do we go from there? The survey data isn't exactly calming on this issue. As reported by Politico last week, the percentage of Americans who believe it is justified to use violence to advance political goals, we, by the way, call that terrorism, has quadrupled since 2017 on both Republicans and Democrats. After all, Hillary Clinton declared that a sizable portion of the United States population constituted a basket of deplorables. Deplorables, a title which we patriots wore with pride because we were not going to be insulted. And that perhaps not since 1870s and 1880s, when Catholics and Southerners and Irish, all core constituents of the Democrat Party, were denounced by Republicans as spies and traitors and drunks, has half the country so despised the other half. As early as 2017, when asked of the chances of another civil war in the United States, about 35% of the people said yes. 51% of the people said that they expected violence after the election. 51%, that's like insane. If you wear a mask, you're a hapless fool. If you don't, then you don't care about the weak and the vulnerable. Perhaps then it is not shocking that we are now seeing articles, even in mainstream publications, suggesting that maybe, just maybe, the United States can't continue in its present form. Many feel we will never go back to the freedom we once had. People are afraid to kiss. They're afraid to hug. Hell, we're afraid to shake hands. We do this. We do this. People don't even look at one another in the eyes anymore, even if you are wearing a mask. The Marxists want an all-powerful central government, and the Americans want decentralization and local control. On September 18th, for example, Steve Chapman in the Chicago Tribune asked this question: can the United States actually survive this election? For the past century, the answer given by most any mainstream journalist would have been a decisive yes. I mean, yeah, we get pissed during the election. That's what we do. We rah-rah, and we wave banners, and we stomp our feet and clap our hands and shout names and epithets. But once the election is over, we all come back together. We all go back to the factory. We all go back to the newspaper. We all go back to the movie theaters. We all go back to the football games and the baseball games. And we try again in 4 years. The usual narrative has long been this: of course America will endure for centuries to come. We Americans are masters of compromise. We all soon realize that we are in this together, and we come together as Americans, even if we don't agree on everything. The concept of dissent is as American as the 4th of July. Hell, we do it on the football field. We do it in the horseshoe games. We do it everywhere. New England states contemplated leaving over the War of 1812. Did you know that? The bonds that hold Americans together have been frayed. And what happens on November 3rd may do additional damage. Not the voting, not the standing in line, not the name calling. That's not going to hurt us. It never does. But we finally, I think, here have realized no nation lasts forever, and ours won't be the first. This election won't be the end of the United States, but it could be the beginning of the end. It could mean the end of freedom and liberty for the whole world, because if we go, there's no one left to defend. In 1970, the Russian dissident Andrei Amalrik wrote a book. It was called Will the Soviet Union Survive Until 1984? At the time, the idea of a giant superpower disintegrating sounded ridiculous. It sounded like fantasy. But it even came true. It did. Countries like Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, shattered, gone, not even on the map anymore. Britain is leaving the European Union. Scotland could push to leave Britain. I don't know how that's going to be, because since they're on the same freaking island. But it could happen. It would be folly to think the United States is immune to these forces. But we're not two countries here. We're not two factions. We're 48 continental states. Last month in the Philadelphia Inquirer, Chuck Bonfig suspected that maybe the end is nearer than we think. The country's gone through many periods of strife in my time here: assassinations, recessions, depressions, desegregation, inflation, gas crises, Watergate, hanging Chads, the AIDS crisis, 9/11. Maybe it's the 24-hour news cycle or the immediacy of social media that makes the landscape seem so bleak. But I don't recall us ever being so divided. I disagree, Chuck. I don't think we're divided. I think that the media is trying to make it sound like we're divided. And when they look for a root cause of the division, They always point the finger at someone else saying, you're arguing with me. You are arguing with me. That means that you're dividing from me. Don't divide. Stop resisting me. You see, that's not a call for unity. That's a call for surrender. No one in our country seems terrifically happy today, except, of course, me. I'm happy. You can come over. We'll be happy together. The right is mad because they see the lies in the press. The left is despondent because they're not able to take what is not rightfully theirs. They're not able to be taken care of. They're watching people be successful all around them, and they hate it. Our nation reminds me of those married couples who try to stay together for the children but end up making everyone around them miserable, including themselves. People can, and often do, stay married too long. You could stay married a long time. Doesn't mean you have to live together until you're enemies. Maybe it's time for a breakup. I mean, let's just think about this just for a second, America. Just hold on. I know breaking up is hard to do. We used to be good together, but what is the point of having the greatest country in the world if none of us actually like it? Well, we don't like what it's become, and I'm going to explain why it has become that way and what we can do to fix it without killing the patient. The debate over separation and secession has been additionally pushed into the national debate. We've seen it. Let's see, there's a book out called Break It Up, Secession, Division, and the Secret History of America's Imperfect Union. That's by Richard Kreitner. He writes for the leftist magazine The Nation. What in the world that means, I have no idea. And he suggests that the United States has never been as unified as many suggest, and also concludes that secession and division may be a necessary tactic in bringing about the left-wing reforms he'd like to see. Oh, I see. So we have a lot of different nations living on the same continent. Oh, I'm sure that will be much more together. What if the United States broke apart? Hello? We're already apart. Okay? There are 48 states, 48 governors, 48 sets of laws, 48 legislatures, 48 sets of senators, 48 sets of congressmen. We already are separate. So what's the complaint? What's the complaint? Well, the complaint is a little bit easy to state. The secession of the American Revolution is the same force that is alive today. Now, it wasn't about slavery or color. It never was. It isn't now, okay? It isn't. Just get that out of your head. It is about the rule of law and whether or not it applies to everyone the same, right? Absolutely it is. The crime gangs like the Bidens get away with everything, while the people under their laws are jailed for smoking pot or choked to death for selling cigarettes without paying the state its tax. We want justice, and the state wants the middle class obliterated. The same as the Civil War, the same as the Depression. Then now it's the OFA's troops attacking the patriots. Okay? It is always the same. It never changes. Secession has long been entertained by many Americans, and not just defenders of the old Confederacy. New Yorker George Templeton Strong, for instance, declared in 1861, Southern states were diseased beyond immediate cure, and their virus will infect our system no longer. And that same year, other New Yorkers seriously discussed leaving the Union and becoming a city-state devoted to free trade. And then in 1876, the battle over who won the presidential election very nearly produced a national split, with the pro-Democrat governor of New York, quote, promising state resistance to the Republican usurpers. It's always been that way. By the way, I asked the question the other day about legislation, and they said, well, Trump had the Senate and the Congress the first 2 years, and he did nothing. Well, that is absolutely not true. Not that he didn't do anything, because he did something. He could not do what he wanted to do because the Republicans did not control either the House of Representatives or the Senate. No, I'm sorry, they did not. Because the establishment controlled both of them. And they weren't Republicans. Why do you think there were 35 of them that bailed when Donald Trump was inaugurated? They bailed. They left. They were the old establishment guard. Once they left, the Senate really could get something done. But of course, we had lost the Congress. The president didn't have the money, didn't have the power to be able to save both. And so the Democrats ran on a health care agenda, which they haven't done a damn thing, not one single thing to progress. They concentrated totally for 24 months on impeachment. And they spent $53 million trying to undo the presidency, and they failed. Now we'll see if they pay the price for that. The nation's founders were necessarily not really opposed to division. Thomas Jefferson, expressed pro-secessionist views, even when he was a sitting president. In an 1803 letter to John Breckinridge, Jefferson explained that if the future states of the Louisiana Territory sought to secede, that was fine with him. If it should become the great interest of those nations to separate from this, if their happiness should depend on it so strongly as to induce them to go through that convulsion, why should the Atlantic states dread it? But especially, why should we, their present inhabitants, take a side in such a question? And in 1804, Jefferson wrote to Joseph Priestley, and he said this: whether we remain in one confederacy or form into Atlantic and Mississippi confederacies, I believe it not very important to the happiness of either part. You see, we've always been separated. We've never been one nation of people. We have been one nation of states, and the states have a federal government to do one thing, actually three things. The first and foremost thing is to protect the 48 states from enemies that are bigger than a state, like foreign enemies. The second thing is to provide for welfare, that is to say, a money system, a banking system, a system of commerce that is unified, or at least uniform, between the states. And the third is to allow the states to do commerce one with another. In other words, if you get a driver's license in California, you could drive all the way to Florida without having to get another driver's license, unless, of course, you move there, okay? You're authorized to operate a vehicle on any roads anywhere in this country. That's what the federal government's there for. Now, at this point, there is only one strategy that can prevent a continued slide toward conflict, disunion, and possibly violence. And that is, and always has been, a decentralization of political power. It has to happen. If Hillary Clinton had been elected, the governors would have been reduced to nothing more than managers. They would not have governing power in their states. All that power would be ceded to the central government. The governors would simply take orders directly from the president, and that's the way it would work. There wouldn't be state laws to worry about. There would be no states' rights to worry about. It would begin with abortion, and it would work its way down. Thanks to decades of growing centralization of power in Washington, D.C., American policy is increasingly made by agencies inside the national government and not by elected state and local authorities. This means American life is more and more governed by one-size-fits-all policies hatched by faraway bureaucrats in D.C. Thus, with each passing decade, The stakes become higher as gun policy, healthcare, poverty relief, abortion, the drug war, education, and much more will be decided by the party that controls the committees in D.C. and not in the state capitol or in the city council. And that's the truth. I'll cover a little bit more of this when we get to the top of the hour. This is X Squared Radio. My name is Brooks Agnew. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget to jump over to dlive.tv, and follow me. We're trying to get to 200 followers there tonight. Let's see if we can get it done. It's free. Same program is streaming over there as it's streaming right where you are. We'll be right back.
Truth Frequency Radio is your #1 source for news and information without the hate, hype, and fear. We're proud to feature cutting-edge programs like The Christopher Everard Show, The Covert Report with Susan Lindauer, Enemy Within Radio with Tom Barnes, Freaky Friday with The Woo Crew, The Gematria Effect with Zachary Hubbard, America's Evil Genius with Travis Cook, Phoenix Rising Radio with Phoenix, Quantum Connections with Lucky, and dozens more. Did you know you can listen from any telephone by dialing 641-793-7117 or call into your favorite show toll free at 833-TFR-LIVE. Uncensored talk and news you won't hear in the mainstream media. Truth Frequency Radio, your protection from deception.
Hoping to sway Nevada voters his way. I'm Joe Chiaro, Fox News. President Trump hosting a rally this hour.
Hello, Carson City. Hello. It's great to be back in Nevada with the thousands of loyal, hard-working American patriots, great people.
The president predicting victory and urging people to early vote.
16 days. 16 days. And you know what? 16 days from now, we're going to win the state of Nevada. We're going to win 4 more years. And we're going to keep it going. Early voting is underway, so get out and vote.
The president began his day in Las Vegas, traveled to a fundraiser in Newport Beach, California, and returned to Nevada, where he'll once again spend the night in Vegas. Former VP Joe Biden hosting a drive-in event in Durham, North Carolina, saying the stakes have never been higher and urging people to vote early.
Folks, unemployment times are hard. Unemployment's way up. Just this week, 1,200,000 people filed for unemployment. Folks are worried about making their next mortgage payment or rent payment, whether their health care will be ripped away in the middle of a pandemic.
Polls show Biden with only a slight edge over President Trump in North Carolina. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi tells ABC's This Week it's up to the White House on whether a deal is reached on a new coronavirus relief bill, saying she's optimistic, but a deal needs to be reached in the next couple days. Pelosi's been seeking a $2.2 trillion package, but the White House has said it will go no higher than $1.8 trillion. America is listening to Fox News.
Wherever you are, make it Truth Frequency Radio.
All right, welcome back. Second hour of America Free Radio, still coming to you live from an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains. And we are streaming on 6 platforms tonight, not only on the Truth Frequency Radio Network, which is one of the largest radio networks in the country, and we are one of the top programs on that network, but we are also streaming to you live on Twitch and Periscope and Facebook Live and DLive and YouTube. So that's a lot of platforms where all of this is going out live right now. We have listeners on all those platforms. What we're really trying to do tonight is DLive.tv. DLive.tv is a blockchain format. This is a little bit different format than what you're used to in that you only get live content there. Now, normally it's a gamer's platform. So if you like watching people play video games, which actually can be kind of cool, they're kind of addictive to watch people play games from all over the world. But they also have a podcast. So if you put in podcast into the search, all the podcasts come up that are live at that moment. Right now, we're probably the only podcast that's live on DLive right now. Yep, the only one. And what we're trying to do is reach that threshold of 200 followers on DLive. So I have 10,000 followers just on one platform, and I want those followers right now to go over to DLive, and you can do this whether we're live or whether we're not. Go to DLive.tv/Brooks Agnew, all one word. I've put the link, and I'll put the link right down here in the bottom in the description of this YouTube. Go there and follow me. It's free. And once you do, once we reach that 200, I reach the level of affiliate. And once I'm an affiliate, I get more latitude, things that I can do in DLive. I'm trying to be a pioneer and pave the way for podcasters to be successful in a blockchain format. This is uncensored, and it is the wild, wild west. But it is as American as America can be. And if you ever think that YouTube is going to succeed in its censorship of us, you're wrong. If they find us and they censor us, along with 20 of my colleagues that they did this Thursday, they're gone. They're gone. But many of them were caught flat-footed because they only existed on YouTube. That's it. They didn't think anything would ever happen to them. I've been diversifying for about a month now, a little over a month. And right now, I'm one of the few podcasters on DLive. And I want you to go to DLive and support this program. You can do it. And then, if they ever get us on YouTube, you can come over and see me on Wednesday and Sunday nights. We may add a few more nights too, just because. So let's finish this up. Because the laws that govern, let's say, the state of Arizona, okay, the president was talking in Nevada tonight, but he's been in Arizona recently. Let's say the laws that govern Arizona will be primarily made by politicians and judges from other places entirely. In other words, people in Michigan, people in Florida, people in New York or Delaware will make laws that have the force of law in the state of Arizona. That's the way it is today. You have agencies, departments, bureaus, and administrations in Washington, D.C., these faraway politicians, faraway professional bureaucrats, and they're making regulations that have the force of law. They have guns to back it up. They can assess fees and fines. They can take police actions against you. All laws that are passed by people in faraway places. So it is only natural that as the national government becomes supercharged in this way, many Americans might start considering ways to get beyond the central government reach. It doesn't have to be this way. The United States could follow another path in which domestic policy is created and enforced in a decentralized manner, in which laws for Texans, they're made in Texas. Laws for Californians, made in California. This, of course, is what Thomas Jefferson imagined when he wrote that the state should be self-governing. That's what the 10th Amendment is all about. That's why Article 5 was written. It's in case of emergency, break glass. When you have a federal government that has become so powerful that it cannot be stopped. The true theory of our Constitution is surely the wisest and best, that the states are independent as to everything within themselves, and united as to everything respecting foreign nations. Let the general government be reduced to foreign concerns only. You want to defend us against China? Use the federal government. In a decentralized political scheme such as this, the stakes in a national election are much lower. It doesn't matter as much for Ohioans which party is in power. In Washington, when relatively few laws affecting Ohioans are made at the federal level, it would take a convention of states to fix this. Okay? To adopt this way of doing things would require a sizable departure from the current ideology that reigns in Washington. On the left, especially, it seems few can imagine a world where people in Iowa or Indiana are allowed to run their own schools and healthcare systems. They want the meddling from Washington. They want it all run out of Washington. Unless Americans have a change of heart and begin to decentralize the political system, expect a growing unwillingness to accept the outcomes of national elections and growing resistance to the federal government in general. What follows is unlikely to be pleasant. So what I want you to do, and I'm going to put this link down here in the description tonight, and I'll put it in my notes, and I'll put it in the newsletter. It is cosaction.org, cosaction.org. And what that is a website that's dedicated to your state. You can become a state captain. You can be involved on your state level for a convention of states. What is a convention of states? In Article 5 of the Constitution, I can pull out the Constitution and read it to you, but this is the basic of it. When the federal government gets out of hand, when it gets to the point where it's oppressing the states, and this was put in one of the last things in the 1787 convention, they realized that they were about to create an all-powerful federal government and needed a way to fix it if it got broke, if it got too powerful, which it is right now. The states could come together and could, with 2/3 of the states, open a convention of states. And this convention of states, they would consider amending the Constitution of the United States from a state level. There are several areas upon which we agree very well. One of them is term limits for Congress, term limits for the Senate, just like we have for the president. I'm sure 67% of delegates, by the way, agree with this. Repealing the 16th Amendment, which is the federal income tax, asking for a balanced budget, amending the Commerce Clause, which is the whole basis for the agencies, departments, bureaus, and administrations that rule your life. They write all your laws. They write all your taxes. They collect all the money, spend all the money, and you have no power over them whatsoever. And that, Americans, is tyranny. That is tyranny. That's the definition of tyranny. It's exactly what they are doing. And it will take a convention of states to fix this. There are other things. Line item veto, for one thing, for the president. These omnibus bills are not what the founding fathers had in mind. You don't have 6,000-page bills to go to Congress. Who the hell reads that? No one does. Their staff is functionally illiterate. Look at Sheila Jackson Lee. She can barely read a question. And then when she does read a question, if she's asked for clarification on it, she doesn't even know what she read. Okay? I'm just saying. Line item veto allows the president to go through a 6,000-page bill and say, well, I like this, but I don't like this, and I don't like this, and I don't like this or this or this or this, and he can put a line item. Each thing. I'm vetoing this line. I'm vetoing this line. I'm vetoing this line. You see, what that does is it stops Congress from holding the president hostage. Because what Congress does is they will starve the military out. We'll fire our last bullet, pump our last gallon of Jet A. We're out. We're out. We need a budget. And so Congress says, well, fine. We'll refill your bank accounts, but we want this and this and this and this and this and this. And it goes on and on and on. So the president says, what can I do? What can I do? We're out of gas. We're out of bullets. We're out of uniforms. We're out of shoestrings. Our guys are broke. We can't have this. I got to have it. And he has no choice whatsoever, but to sign a 6,000-page bill. It ends with line item veto. With line item veto, the president could cut hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars out of the budget. It's a great idea, a fantastic idea, and it's exactly what the Founding Fathers had in mind. Read my lips, no new taxes. That's why they got George H.W. Bush, because they held him hostage. All right. Here we are. We've got, 17, 18 days left, right? I have a cat that wants out of my office, and he cannot figure out how to open the door. I have another cat who can open the door, but has refused to close the door behind him, so I have to fix that. But now I have this cat that wants out, and I have these earbuds in my ear, so I'm hoping, beyond hope, that my moderator is out there listening right now and can open the door and let the cat out of the office. There we go. See how that works? The vote, the whole vote, and nothing but the vote. Okay? Interesting stuff. You know, evil leaves in its wake a stupor of thought. Whenever we fight against the resonant energy of the golden mean, we have to keep pouring energy into the equation to keep the momentum. Otherwise, the second law of thermodynamics kicks in, right? Everything wastes away. The law of entropy. The system slows down and freezes up. Yeah. When Obama was president, he put so much energy into making money during his last term that he let some things go. And one of the things he let go was the federal court. Oh, when they needed it, they would judge, shop, and get over what they wanted. But that's how the DACA program was created. That's how we got Obamacare. That's how Iran and Hillary and ISIS and Benghazi and on got tons of taxpayer funds without anybody going to jail. That being said, he forgot one thing. He forgot to keep up with the retiring federal judges. He got about 185 judges behind. By the time his second term had expired, he was way behind. Enter Donald Trump. Federal court was low-hanging fruit. And so he nominated judges to replace the missing ones and replace them as fast as they retired. It was easy for Mitch McConnell as well. The Democrats filibustered until they got tired, and then the judges began sailing through. 300 judges later, the court is decidedly more constitutional than it was before. It didn't take long for the court to hit pay dirt. That's for sure. Democrats in 22 states, they control, are trying to shatter the election laws by masking the actual election day and making it ambiguous. That is to say, the law used to say the votes had to be counted by election day. Early votes and absentee votes are only counted if they total more than the spread between the candidates on election day. In other words, if on election day the two candidates are 100,000 votes apart, and the total of early votes and absentee votes is only 35,000 votes, then the election is certified on election night. The votes will be counted over the next month or so, and the official total will be saved for the record. But the results won't change. Of course, Ballots RS has changed all of that. They have brought in scuds of ballots a week after the election night and flipped many dozens of elections for themselves. Still, no more votes are allowed after election night, so they say. Tell that to the 9 Republicans who lost their elections in California in 2018, 2 weeks after they won on election night. Tell that to Arizona's Martha McSally, who won by 25,000 votes on election night, but mysteriously lost 95% of the absentee votes they counted 2 weeks after the election, which switched the election to her Democrat opponent. Democrats know how to play the game. They tried to play it again in Michigan for the 2020 election. This time, they ran up against the federal court. The Michigan Court of Appeals ruled a couple of days ago that absentee ballots must arrive by Election Day, November 3rd, to be counted, overturning a lower court decision that had extended the deadline by 14 days. Governor Whitmer wanted votes to count 2 weeks after election. As Breitbart News reported in September, a lower state court had initially handed down a decision that favored Democrats' efforts to extend the deadline. But the Michigan Court of Claims Judge Cynthia Stevens ruled that the mail-in ballots postmarked by November 2nd, the day before Election Day, will still be counted in Michigan in the 2020 election. In addition, Judge Stevens said that strangers can return other people's ballots. Normally, that's a felony. Between 5:01 p.m. on Friday, October 30th, and 8 p.m. on November 3rd, the moment that polling places are supposed to close on Election Day. However, that decision was overturned in what was reportedly a straight 3-0 decision, with the panel of judges ruling that any changes to election rules must be approved by the state legislature. Well, currently, the state legislature in Michigan has a Republican majority, through Governor Gretchen Whitmer is a Democrat, just so you know. Same situation we have here in North Carolina. We have a strong Republican House, we have a strong Republican Senate, and we have a feckless criminal Democrat governor who's about to be thrown out of office. President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden are fighting a pitched battle in the state of Michigan, which went Republican in 2016 for the first time in a long time, many decades. The parties are facing off in court over election rules in several states, and many of them are considered crucial battleground states in November in the presidential election. And that's why it's so important. And maybe through a premonition, maybe through time travel, who knows, President Donald Trump knew that he needed to get busy and get these conservative judges in place, these constitutional judges in place, so that when the time came, when these lawsuits made their way to the federal level, those judges would rule the right way. I think it's going to happen in many states beside that. All right. I opened the program tonight by talking about this. I want to continue to talk about it because it's important. But before I do that, I want to thank the people that showed up this weekend to the life coaching class. I have a master class in journaling, which takes place, and a master class in manifestation. I do this once a month. I have a Saturday. Next month, I think it's November 6th or 7th. I think it's November 7th. It's a Saturday at noon Eastern time, which is a good time for everybody all across the nation and in Europe as well. And I teach people how to manifest their future, how to break through whatever cycle of failure they've had in their life. My avatar, that is to say my target market, are people that are 45 or older. They've already done everything that everyone's asked them to do, and now it's time for them to do what they really want to do, but they don't know how. They've lost their way. They forgot their dream. They don't know how to get started. They've been doing what other people have been telling them to do their whole lives, and now it's them telling them what to do. So I offered the masterclass for a mere $47. It is the best $47 you're going to spend on your stuff. You get 2 sessions. The first session's about 2.5 hours. It is my Remembering the Future lecture that I normally give live. I give it to you face-to-face in a live video, which you attend. The next Saturday is the journaling masterclass, where I teach you how to start a journal, maintain a journal, and how to use the journal as a future book to craft, design your future. It works. It absolutely works. Everything that I've put in my books, I accomplish. Very, very few things have I not done. And they're very few. Maybe they don't work out to the total scope of what I dream, but designing the thing and building the thing and making it happen in a reality, absolutely 100% of the time. I've proven that it works, and I have a lifetime of experience, about 50 years of experience, over 40 years of that working for the Fortune 500. I will be working for you for $47. I decided to charge that instead of a condo payment because you could afford it and I could make up for it in volume. And it works, I promise. So if you'll go to my website, brooksagnew.com, click on the webinars link at the top in the menu and sign up. And I promise you won't be disappointed. If you are, I'll refund your money. No skin off my neck at all. I want you to be satisfied. Also, while you're there, don't forget to slide over to the upcoming events. Contact in the Desert is coming up. It's next June. I know you're saying, well, that's a long ways away. But they're capping it this year. They're capping it. Only 8,000 people can come, which means this thing's going to sell out, and it's going to sell out quick. Okay, they didn't have one this year because of Operation Corona Scare. So they're going to have it next year, and it is going to be stellar. Stellar. It is in Palm Springs. I'll be there. You can be there too. But only if you sign up. All right? So get over there and make it happen. All right, let's get back to it. I want to talk about censorship is the new fascism. Facebook censored 2 advertisements from the pro-life group Susan B. Anthony lists, claiming the videos contained partly false information about Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden and vice presidential nominee Kamala Harris and her views on late-term abortion. Well, I guess everybody can have a little flaw in their posts, but the ads, which focus on the Democrat Party's position in support of abortion on demand up to until the moment of birth, were labeled by independent fact-checkers who claimed to look carefully into claims from elected officials, reports from the media, and disinformation on social media to help you understand what's true and what's not. And we talked about this morning, this whole Section 230 thing, which is the FCC, saying that social media is a platform and thus is immune from being sued. They're not publishers, they're a platform. But when they censor, when they take your ad off, when they say you can't make this post, when they say you're in Facebook or Twitter jail, then they are acting as publishers. They're deciding what gets posted and what doesn't get posted. They have soldiers which monitor, especially problem children, like, okay, well, maybe, I'm not saying one might be me, but it could be. And if you get out of line, then they shut you down. They don't let you have access to your listeners or to their people that are in their mall, okay? So, the independent fact checker was actually a Never Trump website. The Dispatch, which labeled the ads as partly false because Biden not explicitly stated that he supports late-term abortions, even though he has repeatedly said he wants no restrictions on a woman's right to choose. Biden has not expressed support for late-term abortions, which, while not being a medical term, generally refers to abortions performed at 21 weeks or later, and neither candidate has voiced support for abortion up to the moment of birth, the fact check reads. But both Biden and Harris have been very clear that they do not want restrictions on abortions, implying that late-term abortions would be perfectly fine with them. Despite this flip-flopping on the issue, Biden now supports the revoking the Hyde Amendment. Now, I don't know if you remember who Mr. Hyde was, not Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back right after this. Don't go away.
It's amazing how people have been raving about Aya Life all over Facebook. They've been posting their testimonials just because they want to get the word out because it's worked so well for them. If you're not familiar with Aya Life, it's a 99% pure CBD oil, but the secret is the synergy between the hemp and the ayahuasca vine, the non-psychoactive component of the ayahuasca tea. We recently received an email from a wife whose husband has Parkinson's. For the first time, he's been able to sleep through the entire night. Another customer reported that they're no longer using NSAIDs because their tennis elbow has been relieved with Aya Life. So the report has been phenomenal and much more than we ever expected. Everyone should have access to this. That's why if you head on over to ayalife.com right now and use coupon code TFR, we'll give you $5 towards your order. And we'll even ship it worldwide. That's ayalife.com, AYA life.com.
Do you want to lose weight but have no idea where to begin? The Fast Start Diet, a 3-day weight loss plan, is the answer. 3 days of nutritionally balanced, calorie-restricted meals delivered right to your door. No shopping, no measuring, and no cooking. Everything is prepared for you and ready to eat at home or on the go. The Fast Start Diet has all the amazing benefits of intermittent fasting without starving. We've helped thousands of people who have struggled to reach their weight loss goals. Isn't it time we helped you? With the Fast Start Diet, you'll lose weight and feel great.
Find us on Amazon or go to faststartdiet.com and use promo code POWER to get $10 off your first box. As a special bonus, we will include our #1 rated Lipo3 appetite suppressant spray free with your order. Whatever your diet plans are, start with us at faststartdiet.com and use promo code POWER.
Hey everyone, it's Mark Sargent from Strange World, broadcasting live every Tuesday evening, 10 to 12 Eastern, 7 to 9 Pacific, right here on True Frequency Radio. Strange World covers a wide range of topics, from enclosed world theory to lunar waves to the end of the world in film. It's basically doomsday with a silver lining. With the audience as my co-host, we take an optimistic approach to all things conspiracy and promote confidence, hope, and humor whenever possible. If there's a topic you want us to cover, or a guest you would see it and like viewed, please email me at msargent23@comcast.net. So please join me and tell your friends about Truth Frequency Radio, the leader in real radio programming, bringing you quality, cutting-edge broadcasts from around the world.
No hate, no hype, no fear.
You're listening to Truth Frequency Radio.
We are TFR.
I've been waiting for this moment since my first breath in. Never would have thought I'd be afraid to begin, but here I am, the edge of the water, wondering if I can swim. Never seem to slow how the days pass through, but in this final moment, I'm still chasing the truth. I want an explanation why I can't stay here forever in my youth. And if I press on, you wait for me forever, or would it be wrong to ask you to come with? Tell me, will you wait?
Hey, we sold a lot of books this week, and I think that's probably because of Brad and Casey's videos that have gone up. And I've also put their information in my upcoming events page on my website at brooksagnew.com. And if you bought the book on Amazon, thank you very much, because it helps the rankings, and you got a great price, but you didn't get a signature. So I created this. This is a signature card, the present from the future. And you'll see this little space right here. That's where my signature goes. I will sign this, send it to you. You can buy this for free, by the way, just shipping and handling. And it has an adhesive back. You just peel it off, stick it inside your book, and now you have a signed copy. Easy to do. Just go to the website and pick you up one. Also, I will send you the present from the future armband. So that is a way to get a conversation going right away. You can put it somewhere obvious, or even put it on your wrist and start the conversations that way. It'll help you remind you what you're supposed to be focused on at the time. All right, by the way, there's a call in the chat room to pray for the world's children. And I totally support that, okay? Prayer is very powerful, and it is... Let's see if I can get up here and see who did that. There's so many chats that's happening. Oh, here it is. Here it is. It's Lady Peregrine. She said, please pray for the world's children this coming week. You know, it is the most powerful form of prayer to pray for other people. You pray for yourself, sometimes you'll get an answer. Be careful. When you pray over food, you can change the molecular structure of your food, and I highly encourage doing that. But the best prayers of all, the ones that are really answered, the ones that have a whole department full of angels waiting, are when you pray for other people. It's so much better when I pray for you and you pray for me than we pray for ourselves. So let's do it that way. Thank you very much, Lady Peregrine. Very, very good thoughts. And Diane is out there. She has good thoughts too. Let's see who we got. Hova's plan. Let's see. Mr. Cheeps. I like that. That's very good. Whitmer looks like a she-devil. I get it. What? She looks like Bruce Jenner. That's very good. I needed that laugh. That's good. That's good. Mad Pogue is out there. And, you know, there are people in D-Live, too, right now. And this is good, too. Let's see. We got, let's see. Boo4 is out there. Who else do we have? We have The Real One. Nice to see you out there on D-Live. And we have Mad Pogue is out there on D-Live. Very nice. Very nice. Big D, 1955. That's a good year. That's a good year. That's when I was born. Very good. Very good. I like it. Keep it going. We're trying to get to 200 followers on D-Live. If we don't make it tonight, well, my life will not be complete. But we're really trying to get there. D-Live is not currently a big platform for podcasters. It does have a category for podcasters, which is where we exist. And we're there only live right now, only live. So if you go there and I'm not live, you don't see an archive. That's just not the way that platform works. But that's okay. It'll grow. It'll get there. It'll get there because we are paving the way. We are one of the pioneers opening the way for podcasters to come. And I noticed one of my friends, Red Pill 78, was there the other night. Maybe he's opting to go another way, but I'm highly encouraging my compatriots to come with me, and let's build a new nation on D-Live TV. All right. Let's talk a little bit about electric space. Electric space. You know, since the actual breakthrough with the electric thrusters in space and the private sector opening provided by President Trump, my prediction of a free market capitalist explosion of new technology has come true. Today, we present Impulsion. Yeah, Impulsion. Wow, what a fantastic little power pack. It's an Australian company, and it's developing cutting-edge thruster solutions for small and medium satellites. So if you're thinking about building a small or medium, I'm just kidding. I'm just letting you know that the landscape is changing. This company was founded in 2016, which was like 45 minutes ago in space-time. And they've delivered more than 130 thrusters, and 50 of them are already propelling satellites of various sizes in space. How did the company achieve that? I mean, this is really amazing. And I just discovered them myself, and I want to share with you where this industry is going. In 2017, Impulsion was founded. 17,000 hours performance test of the Impulsion Nano. Then in 2018, they did the first demonstration in space of the Impulsion Nano. And then in 2019, expansion of production facilities and ISO 9001 certification. I could have helped with that. I could have got you that certification in 2018, maybe. Launch of several Impulsion Nano modifications. And then in 2020, the launch of the Impulsion Micro. Now, excuse me. The company's goal is to provide reliable and accessible propulsion solutions to ensure in-space mobility for customers of all types. That's a good mission statement. It's a good mission statement. It's kind of like the mission statement for the Global Telescope Network. You want to know what it is? Hey, all you have to do is go to my website, go to the Agnew Scientific link, and look up the Global Telescope Network. It's very cool. So what is the technology with this? These don't have a lot of fuel, and they are incredibly powerful for their size. The Micro was launched in 2020. It produces 1.5 micronewtons of thrust. 1.5 millinewtons of thrust with an input power of just 100 watts. And it provides 50 kilonewtons, which is a lot of thrust, about 500 pounds, as a total impulse. It is inherently redundant with more than 100 parallel ion emission sites and 4 cold redundant neutralizers. I know you don't know what that is. That's okay. It's exciting because we're talking about science instead of politics. They basically look like a little square toaster with little tiny jets on them about this big. And they're electric thrusters. So what they basically do is they charge a chamber and then accelerate particles out the nozzle to create the thrust. And it'll last for a long, long time because they use a very, very tiny amount of fuel in order to make this happen. Most of the old school, stuff uses hexane. And then what they'll do is they'll use catalytic thrusters. They don't produce a lot of thrust, though, and they do run out of fuel. These work off ionic power. So they develop electric thrust, and then they thrust high-velocity particles out the back. Force is equal to mass times acceleration. So you're going to create the force whether you have a lot of mass and low acceleration or whether you have a little bit of mass and a whole lot of acceleration. The math is the same or better. High velocity, but low amounts of thrust. Over time, you can create a lot of speed. Customers are, new space companies like Blue Canyon Technologies, ICE-I, Nano Avionics, and also heritage space companies like French consortium involving Hemeria, Thales Alenia Space, and CNES. So these are companies that you never heard of, but these are companies that build components, and they build satellites, and they build systems that are going into space. And guess what? None of them are government. They're all private companies. They're all like you and me. They start out with a garage, they start out with a shop, and then they go to small manufacturing, and then they get a little bit of money, and then they get a proof of concept. And this is the way it's supposed to be done. Satellite electric propulsion startup Apollo Fusion. They're also expanding its product line through an agreement with NASA's JPL, right out of Pasadena, where I used to live. And they're producing what's called a Hall thruster technology. The Silicon Valley-based company said May of this year that it signed a deal that gives it an exclusive worldwide commercial license for JPL's magnetically shielded miniature Hall thruster technology. These are really small, like this big. This big. I'm holding it in my hands if you're just listening on the radio. And when I present at Contact in the Desert, I am going to be talking about my asteroid mining, the future of energy. And I'm going to try to get some of this technology from these companies to hold up so I can show you what it looks like, how small it is, how incredibly simple and elegant this technology is. Apollo Fusion plans to use the MASMI technology in an electric thruster called Apollo Xenon engine. It uses xenon gas and accelerates that out the back. The old, hydrogen peroxide thrusters are all gone now. They just carry too much weight. It costs a lot of money, about $12,000 to $15,000 per kilogram to get this stuff into space. So it uses magnetic field lines to stop the plasma inside a Hall thruster from eroding the inside of the thruster. Because as you know, this is like raw protons. And when you talk about acid, whether it's battery acid or hydrochloric acid or nitric acid, the acid part of it is not the sulfur. It's not the nitrogen, okay? It's not the chloride. The acid part of it is the hydrogen proton. So the proton is the acid. That's, when we're talking about acid-base reaction, it's the proton that's the bad player. That's what they're accelerating. And if you don't magnetically align it and keep it away from touching the nozzle, the metal of the nozzle, it will eat away at it. And then pretty soon you'll just have an open tube and you won't have the acceleration that you're looking for because the nozzle will be eroded. So you use the magnetic field lines to keep the plasma away from the metal. I don't know if you've ever used one before, but a plasma cutter basically uses compressed air. It just has an air compressor in it. You turn it on, the air compressor turns on, right? It boosts it up to about 100 psi, 150 psi, and it forces it through a nozzle. And at the end of the nozzle are electrodes. And when the electrodes fire, when you pull the trigger, it turns that compressed air into a hot jet. And that hot jet just slices right through iron like butter, That's what a plasma cutter is. You don't want that to happen to your jet. So you aim the plasma away from the metal so that you use the magnetic lines to protect your jet. The erosion limits the lifetime of a conventional Hall thruster is about 200,000 Newton seconds of impulse, and then it's done. It's history. It's used up. Magnetic shielding allows the thrusters to last way longer, like 10 times longer, and it's not 10 times more expensive. Apollo Fusion plans to take that technology and commercialize it. And if we can get, say, a fusion plasma instead of a ionic plasma like this, a fusion plasma, that is to say, raw energy that's released from fusing two atoms together, we're talking 5,000 times the thrust. Instead of a few millinewtons, we're talking about thousands of pounds of thrust at way, way higher velocities. If you can use this magnetic technology to keep that away from the nozzles, you could take 1 million kilogram craft, something that weighs like almost 250,000 pounds, and you could launch it to Mars in about 70 days. And by the way, halfway there, you have artificial gravity. because you're constantly accelerating. And then you turn the ship around, line it up with Mars, and then decelerate for half the distance. And you have artificial gravity again, without spinning. No barfing. You could do jumping jacks. You can do sit-ups. You can hold your lunch down. Get it? You're not weightless, except for a few minutes at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. And that's it. The rest of the time you have gravity. There's another company. Let's see here. Axe. Axe, let's see. Company's going to start commercially producing the Axe thrusters. They already started this year. Axe will offer higher thrust and performance over the company's existing Apollo Constellation engine. That's the ACE engine. It has 1,000 watts of power, 55 millinewtons of thrust, versus 400 watts with 24 millinewtons of thrust. So they're getting bigger. What we want to get is a big, big ship going. And that's what's coming. So competing with Apollo is another startup, which I mentioned, Orb Ion. Orb Ion Space Technology. You got to imagine what these shirts look like. I'm going to get shirts. I'm going to get hats. And we're going to hand them out at Contacted in the Desert. They have announced August 28th that they raised $9.2 million Series A during a Series A round to develop and mass-produce Hall-effect plasma thrusters for small satellites. Material Impact is a venture capital firm focused on early-stage investments. They led the round with Invest Michigan, Invest Detroit, Wakestream Ventures, and Arbor Spark. All this will be in my notes, by the way, if you can access it. If you're thinking about having a startup, these are the guys I would contact. These are the venture capital firms that make it happen. Another one's called Boomerang Catapult, and they're also participating in these launches. Orb Ion, a Houghton, Michigan-based company, just founded in 2016. See, all this during the Trump administration. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. We're already talking about 1,000 jobs just between these companies right here, and they're all high-paying jobs. They're all fantastic jobs. Jobs you talk to your kids about over the dinner table. Yeah. I mean, you know what their man cave must look like? Golly, I'm just talking some cool stuff here. Just way cool stuff. Let's see here. Oh, yeah. They joined a list of firms that have secured investor dollars for electric small sat propulsion systems over the past 2 years. And these companies are cool. Axion Systems in Boston, Indian startup Bellatrix Aerospace, French startup Exo Trail, and ThrustMe. I don't know if I like that name very much. But Orb Ion's distinction is in its approach to manufacturing. CEO Brad King said in an interview the company is modeling its Aurora thruster production after the approach defense contractors use to build tactical missiles. Tactical missiles are built a few hundred per year. They cost a few $100,000 each. They have to operate in space. They have to be incredibly reliable. We modeled our manufacturing on the tactical missile strategy, and in doing so, the infrastructure and design that allows us to develop these products in days rather than many, many months. Orb Ion aims to eventually build and ship these thrusters 6 to 8 days from when they receive an order. That's what I'm talking about. Orb Ion plans to use its new capital to fully test and qualify its Aurora thruster system ahead of a third quarter 2020 customer delivery, King said. He decided to name the customer. He declined to name the customer, but said Orb Ion's Hall-effect plasma thrusters have commercial and government buyers. I'm sure they would ask, who are you selling to? So what does this boil down to? What's going on in space and what's going on? Why all this opportunity and why aren't we seizing upon it? And the issue is that we run into what's called the Overton window. I don't know if you know what the Overton window is. It's a philosophy. I'm going to explain it to you for the rest of this segment here, and I think you'll understand it. The CIS-Mars program and the cislunar programs, they really sound like, endless prosperity. I was wearing this hat the other day, and I walked in, and I think it was a Cracker Barrel. I was having breakfast, and I paid for the breakfast, and she said, make space great again. What does that mean? I said, well, it's the new space program, and President Trump has put the Space Force in place, which has allowed private industry to get involved in space again, and we're making space great again. She said, sounds ridiculous to me. We can't even get good insurance. See, this is what we ran into. It sounds like endless prosperity and a future of exploration and expansion of the human race in space. I get that. Everybody I talk to gets it. And I actually love it. The issue that we are facing now in dark reality is the Overton window. The Overton window is an approach to identifying the ideas that define the spectrum of acceptability of governmental policies. Hence the Cracker Barrel lady. Politicians can only act within the acceptable range. Shifting the Overton window involves proponents of policies outside the window, persuading the public, persuading the Cracker Barrel lady to expand the window. Proponents of current policies or similar ones within the window seek to convince people that policies outside it should be deemed unacceptable. According to Lehman, who actually coined the term, the Overton window, the most common misconception is that lawmakers themselves are in the business of shifting the Overton window. They are not. That is false. Lawmakers are actually in the business of detecting where the window is, what are the limits, and then moving to be in accordance with it. They don't step outside of it. That's why they put their finger in the air. They're looking for the way the wind is blowing. It's the edge of the Overton window. Now, according to Lehman, the concept is just a description of how these ideas work, not an advocacy of extreme policy proposals. In an interview with the New York Times, he said, and I quote, "It just explains how ideas come in and out of fashion, the same way that gravity explains why something falls to the earth. I can use gravity to drop an anvil on your head, but that would be wrong. I could also use gravity to throw you a life preserver, and that would be good. But since its incorporation in political discourse, others have used the concept of shifting the window to promote ideas outside of it, with the intention of making fringe ideas more acceptable." Okay? It's the door in the face technique. Slam the door in their face. What the hell was that about? It has been said, and we are seeing this concrete setting firmly now. The smart way to keep people passive and obedient is to strictly limit the spectrum of acceptable opinion, like YouTube does, like Twitter does, like Facebook does. But they allow very lively debate within that spectrum. So they can say, well, we're all for free speech. They even encourage the more critical and dissonant views. And that gives people the sense that they're free, right? You have a sense of freedom. Oh, we can have debate. We argue all the time. Contemporary commentators have spun off the concept of walking through the Overton door to convey the easier and more timely task of advocating ideas that are becoming popular, but they're not yet codified into law or policy. It means that we think we have free speech, and we have the freedom to explore and express. The reason we think that is because we are doing this well within the limits of the Overton window. We call it, I think, thinking outside the box. When we get close to the walls or the edges of the box, we're warned. When we cross outside those limits, the powers that establish those limits take immediate action. They kick your ass off of YouTube. That is what happened on Thursday of this week. 20 of the top podcasters on YouTube were terminated. Their families were plunged into poverty after millions of subscribers were sent scrambling, and those brilliant podcasters, each one of them, who in some cases had spent a decade building their audiences and their revenue structures, were executed. We'll be right back after this break. Don't go away.
Hi, my name is Ella, and I'm 10 years old. I'm one of the millions of children born to parents suffering from the sheeple virus. Symptoms include the inability to think for oneself, the attention span of a goldfish, and a strong belief in government and the mainstream media. It is estimated that 1 out of every 2 children are being raised by parents infected with the sheeple virus. But there is a cure. For as little as 19 cents per day, you can become a TFR supporter and help children like me get their daily dose of truth. Together, we will make sure every child has protection from deception.
Both campaigns on the offense. I'm Joe Chiro, Fox News. President Trump and rival Joe Biden, each campaigning in states they're trying to flip. President hosting a rally in Carson City, Nevada tonight, telling the audience they have a choice.
Between a Trump super recovery, which we're in right now, or a Biden depression. You will have a depression. First of all, your taxes are going to be quadrupled. You will have a depression, the likes of which we have not seen since 1929.
Polls show the president is trailing in Nevada, a state he lost in 2016. Earlier, he attended a fundraiser in California and will make 2 campaign stops in Arizona tomorrow. Former VP Joe Biden hosting a drive-in rally in Durham, North Carolina.
The other night, Trump said at one of his rallies, "We've turned the corner." My grandfather would say, this guy's gone around the bend if he thinks we turned the corner.
The latest Real Clear Politics poll has Biden up by less than 3 points. A free speech rally in San Francisco yesterday to protest censorship on Twitter and other social media quickly turned violent. Fox's Claudia Cowan reports.
Hundreds of Antifa counter-protesters rushed to the event and attacked, vastly outnumbering the dozen or so demonstrators. They threw glass bottles and beat up police and demonstrators, knocking out the front teeth of the event organizer, Philip Anderson. The protest was sparked by social media's most recent act of censorship, limiting the spread of the alleged Hunter Biden emails, as reported in the New York Post. First Facebook, then Twitter made it next to impossible for users to share the story.
The House Judiciary Committee this week is expected to vote on a subpoena of Twitter's CEO for questioning. America is listening to Fox News.
This is the Truth Frequency Radio Network. TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
All right. Welcome back. Final hour of X Squared Radio tonight, coming through the America Free Radio studios. We're streaming on the Truth Frequency Radio Network, where the Truth Freaks hang out, and we are not afraid to let our Truth Freak flag fly. And we're also streaming live on Twitch, on Periscope, on Facebook Live, D-Live, and, of course, YouTube Live. So we're trying to build an audience on D-Live to 200 followers. Why 200? Well, a thing happens at 200. When you reach 200 followers on D-Live, you become an affiliate. And the reason that's important is because if someone wants to replay tonight's program on D-Live, they could do it if I'm an affiliate. If you have less than 200 followers, you don't qualify. You only appear live. That's it. So what we want to do is reach that 200 floor. We reach that 200 level of followers on D-Live. Right now there's 100 or so listening at any given moment on YouTube. We have almost 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. If you're listening to this as an archive, which a couple thousand of you will do over the next week, also 3,500 or so of you tonight will receive the newsletter with this link in it. I'm asking 200 of you to go follow me on D-Live. I would like you to listen to me. It's important that you listen to me, but it's more important that you do what I ask you to do and go to dlive.tv, look me up. It's Brooks Agnew, all one word. I'm there. Follow me in the podcast section, and you're done. And that's it. And once I reach 200, you can actually replay my programs, and I think that would be important for that audience, and we're going to continue to grow it. So I want to talk a little bit about the Overton window. A lot of us would call this thinking outside the box. And there are those that maintain the edge of this window, because as you get close to more freedom, you reach the unthinkable, the radical, and then you reach the acceptable, and then the sensible, and then the popular, and then policies in the middle. And then with less freedom, you restrict it down to the point where it becomes popular, and then sensible, and then acceptable, and then radical, and then unthinkable. The level of censorship becomes too much. YouTube is somewhere like right in the middle of this, between sensible on one side and sensible on the other side. However, when you take 20 of the top podcasters in the world and you execute them, they don't exist anymore. I told you one of them was considering suicide. Their families are plunged into poverty, and this is not what we like to see. Okay, they had already been demonetized. They already didn't make any money off the advertisements. YouTube was taking all that money away from them. Their own listeners were top chatting. That is to say, why they listen, they go to the little square there on YouTube with the $sign in it, and they donate, which many of you do to this program as well. And I just collect all the money. We're trying to put together this venture to go above the Arctic Circle. If it works, fine. If it doesn't, that's fine too. But, so you've put a couple $1,000s in there since we've been on the air. Is that enough to get anything done? No, not really. But, I got faith, so we'll continue to grow it. They'd already been demonetized, but their audiences were top chat donating, and their sponsors were paying for access to their loyal listeners. And that was enough. It was enough for them. It was enough for them to survive. It was enough for them to pay their bills, their car payments, their mortgage payments, and take their girlfriends to dinner now and then. But YouTube saw that they had adapted. In their brilliance and in their perseverance, they had delivered value to their listeners. So, YouTube deleted them. I mean, their accounts, their content, their subscriptions were deleted in one sudden act of Overton censorship. This is fascism at its finest. Like Roosevelt and Mussolini, his best friend, the government used its power to crush competition with its ideas. The global syndicate wants Trump and the patriots out of power. The patriots who successfully operate podcasts were terminated 19 days before the 2020 election with the express purpose of preventing President Trump and his patriots from communicating through YouTube. We are already moving to other platforms, but the listeners are not moving with us yet. It may take months or even years before the listeners find us again, and they may be too late for the 2020 election. The Global Syndicate purged the major podcasters Thursday of this week. They're gone. You'll never hear from them again, more than likely. They will be coming for the rest of us soon. I know that. I just want you to make the switch to DLive and Twitch before YouTube leaves you starving for truth and you don't know where to go for America Free Radio. Go there and look for Brooks Agnew. All one word, just Brooks Agnew. You'll find it. So what does this run up against? We call it the Section 230 shield. The Global Syndicate stepped up its war on President Trump and the Republican Party by censoring the New York Post's reporting about Hunter Biden's overseas business dealings with his father, Joe Biden, was serving as former President Obama's vice president. We have heard the rumors for years, but now we had the proof. We were waiting for hard evidence. Well, it showed up in the most unlikely place. Hunter left his beer-damaged laptop at a local repair shop. In his post-crack stupor, he forgot where he left it. According to the New York law, that laptop becomes the property of the shop owner if the bill has not been paid for 90 days. The owner went to wipe the hard drive and sell the laptop to recover his fee. And guess what he found? The evidence we had been looking for. He immediately panicked. He knew he was going to commit suicide, whether he wanted to or not, once the Biden gang remembered he had the laptop. Under a friend's counsel, he turned it over to the FBI. They did nothing. Zippo. Nothing. He panicked again. Maybe the FBI was the bad guys. So he leaked the content to the New York Post, and within minutes, the Anons and the YouTube podcasters ran with it. Thursday morning of this week, YouTube terminated the top 20, covering some 10 million subscribers. Deleted all content, channel, money, branding, everything was gone. One of my friends caught in that group admitted he considered killing himself. I'm sure that he would have been fine. That would have been just fine with the syndicate. They locked down the account of one of the most widely circulated, oldest, and most venerable newspapers in America. They locked down the account of the press secretary to the President of the United States. They locked down the account of the President's campaign, refusing to allow people to post any URL to that story. They deleted the top podcasters in the country, plunging more than 20 families into poverty. They missed me because I did it in the second hour. I didn't do it in the first hour. I did it in the second hour. I got it out on Wednesday night. They locked down anything that looked bad for the Bidens, and they hyper-promoted anything that looked bad for the Trumps. That is election tampering. That is a direct act of sedition. That is war. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham and Senator Ted Cruz, a member of the committee, said Thursday that Facebook and Twitter's leaders should testify before Congress about the censorship of the Hunter Biden story. So the hell what? So freaking hell what? They will come and they will smile at all their pawns who would all lose their elections as soon as their accounts are put into Facebook jail for 30 days, right before the election. They are protected under Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. They are platforms, not publishers. They cannot be sued by any of the friends who are now wondering how they're going to pay their mortgage payments in a few days. They cannot be sued by any of the subscribers who loved to listen to them and now are forbidden because YouTube deleted them. Well, that is going to change soon, because the millions of Americans who believe in God and believe in national sovereignty and believe in the Constitution will not tolerate the global syndicate continuing to dictate the flow of information in this country. The election is between the global media empire in Silicon Valley, who can censor our voices as much as they want, and the American people. I have this to say. Our voices will be louder on November 3rd, and you will lose. Now we know that Hunter Biden was a crook. We know that his father, China Joe Biden, was the crime boss. We know that his reign of blood and horror spans nearly 5 decades. And we know that Obama joined his gang in 2008 and that they were able to rob Americans of billions in cash while selling the country to the Chinese Communist Party in all the global syndicate. Joe Biden openly lied about his participation in corrupt overseas business dealings with his son. You know it, and I know it. Hunter violated the first rule of being a crime gang boss. Never do the drugs you're selling. Banks cited a specific line from an email in the reports that mentions the big guy, getting an equity share in a Chinese business deal. The banks said the big guy is Joe Biden. You know what? I'm not buying it. I think Joe Biden got a piece, yes, but I don't think he's the big guy. I think the big guy was Obama. What is very chilling is that perhaps Joe was a bigger criminal than Obama, but Obama was smarter and knew he would outlive the old dawn of taxpayer money laundering. He made his millions too and got his ISIS financed and the uranium distributed to Iran and North Korea. Obama had a darker and more permanent objective. China Joe was just old Joe, making money and getting rich. Obama dreamed of destroying America, and he damn near did it. Now the question on everyone's minds tonight is, where do Twitter and Google and Microsoft stand? Censorship is a small piece of the puzzle, but it leads to getting the syndicate and the White House into the White House again. Once they are in, America ends. There will be no more states. There will be no more governors. There will be no more private property or billionaires. So how do they expect to survive in their luxury? Have they ever thought that through? Oh, yes, they have. They have been taught that everything in the universe came from darkness, and to darkness it shall return. They believe that reward in this life is temporary, and the gift of a world to rule over is only given by Lucifer himself, because he is the God of this world. In fact, he may be the God of many worlds. Maybe we're only fooling ourselves if we think we can podcast from our hearts to you and wake you up to the light. Yes, this divides the world into light and darkness. No, it is not unity and togetherness. It is time for you to decide which place you will exist in. I could go on all night about the benefits of both, but I think the reason you are here is because you are children of the light. You are welcome and you're loved no matter what. In 16 days, we will participate in an act that can save or condemn the world. Vote for America and stand with the patriots, or vote for the global syndicate to return to power and end America forever. This may be the last time you actually have that choice. So make it count. A lot going on. Phone lines are open if you want to call in. 213-233-3998. Any question, anywhere. I promise. I'll love you. Twitter even censored a White House scientist. How can you follow the science if Twitter blocks your way? Social media company Twitter finished its week of apparently politically motivated censorship on its platform by banning tweets regarding the efficacy of masks from Scott Atlas, a member of the White House scientific team battling the coronavirus. By the way, it is a fact, 85% of the people infected with the coronavirus were wearing masks. 85%. It means only 15% of the people that caught it were not wearing masks. Atlas, a senior fellow at Stanford's Hoover Institute, no lightweight, not only had his tweets removed, he was banned from tweeting until he deleted the tweets that Twitter decided for unclear reasons to object to. Here are the tweets in question. The first one from Scott Atlas says, that means the right policy is at real Donald Trump guideline, using masks for their intended purpose. When close to others, especially high risk, otherwise social distance, no widespread mandates, hashtag common sense. He also said, masks work, ? No. LA, Miami, Hawaii, Alabama, France, Philippines, UK, Spain, Israel, WHO. Widespread use not supported. Many harms. Hennigan, OXF, CEBM, despite decades, consider. In an email to the Federalist, Atlas outlined the evidence behind his tweet. In the deleted tweet, I cited the following evidence against general population masks. I call it solitary confinement myself. Cases exploded even with mandates. Los Angeles County, Miami-Dade County, Hawaii, Alabama, the Philippines, Japan, the United Kingdom, Spain, France, and Israel. Number 2, Dr. Carl Hennigan, University of Oxford, Director of Center for the Evidence-Based Medicine and Editor-in-Chief of British medical journal Evidence-Based Medicine, said this: it would appear that despite 2 decades of pandemic preparedness, there is considerable uncertainty as to the value of wearing masks. The World Health Organization, I quote, the widespread use of masks by healthy people in the community setting is not yet supported by high quality or direct scientific evidence, and there are potential benefits and harms to consider. I know whenever I go to Japan or whenever I go to China, I notice some people wearing masks. So I asked the people that I work with in those countries, why are those people wearing masks? And they said, well, it's because they have a cold and they don't want to spread it to other people. So they wear a mask out of courtesy. I said, wow, that makes total sense. I wish people in the U.S. would do that. I mean, I've been on airplanes before. I don't know, row 22, row 17, something like that, never first class. And you know what I hear on that plane? With 275 or 350 people? One row, another, one side, the other of the aisle, behind me, in front of me. None of them are wearing masks. They never have. And I thought to myself, wow, wouldn't it be so courteous if those people that are on this plane in a big aluminum tube at 35,000 feet with me would just wear a mask, and then they wouldn't spread their cold to me, which I easily get bronchitis anyway. So, smart idea. but healthy people wearing masks, stupid. The CDC, and I quote, "Our systematic review found no significant effect of face masks on transmission of laboratory confirmed influenza." Close quote. He goes on to say, "I also cited an article giving detailed explanation of the reasons why masks might not prevent spread." For that, Earth explores, he was censored by Twitter. Twitter decided that they know more than the scientists. Twitter decided they know more than the CDC. Twitter decided they know more than the WHO. Twitter decided they knew more than Dr. Carl Hannigan, that they knew more than the LA County, Miami-Dade, all these agencies that had come to this conclusion. They decided they knew better. Why? Because that's not the goal, Earth Explorers. The goal of the Global Syndic is to put you into solitary confinement. Because for human beings, 70% of what we say is how we say it. 70% of what we say is nonverbal. Nonverbal. It isn't just the hands. I could put my hands down here. But you could see by my face what it is I'm trying to say. You could see if I'm angry or if I'm happy. You could see if I'm trying to speak from my heart or behind a mask where every single person I see has to say, "Huh? What'd you say? Can you repeat that?" And the next thing you know, they're yelling at one another. Notwithstanding this evidence regarding arguably the most important and contentious debate raging in American society today, the constant mandate of the freaking masks, it appears some 20-something with his pronouns in his Twitter bio just pushed a button and erased scientifically accurate information. For some reason, which hopefully Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey can explain when he's dragged before the Senate, I highly doubt it, Atlas was silenced by the tech giant. I'm sure Jack had nothing to do with it. I'm sure it was Twitter soldiers, thousands of them working in the bowels of his organization, that took upon themselves the action that they did. This comes the same week that Twitter blocked New York Post articles alleging improprieties involving presidential candidate Joe Biden, his son Hunter, and the Ukrainian energy company Burisma, revealed by a laptop now held by the FBI. For good measure, Twitter also banned the New York Post official Twitter account from the platform altogether. No more tweeting for you. Universal masking is a subject of scientific research and just happens to be a contentious political argument in the midst of the 2020 presidential election. People that wear masks vote Democrat. People that don't wear masks are American. They're patriots. Under the dubious policy of stopping the spread of disinformation, Twitter has silenced an expert on the matter for what seems to be politically motivated purposes. Twitter, which claims to be a neutral platform and enjoys legal protection under Section 230, has once again proven that not only does it have editorial agenda, it has a political one too. You see, the information overlords at Twitter.com will decide what information and what facts the masses like you and me are allowed to consume on their platform. They don't block me. They don't put me in jail. They just don't let anybody see my tweets. Oh, yeah, I got pretty close to 5,000 followers on Twitter. But when I post, you know how many people see my tweets? One or maybe two. Over a week's time, I may get 1 or 2 retweets. That's about it. I'll get you Fargo, North Dakota when we come back from the break. We've got about 1 minute and 30 seconds. Hang in there. Hang in there. I want to give you a full chance to speak. Don't go away. We're going to take a quick break in about 1 minute. But this is enough, Earth Explorers. It was well past enough already. Twitter is now censoring important and much needed scientific information 16 days before the most important election in a generation. Twitter is not a neutral platform. The fact is as obvious as a punch in the mouth, which is exactly what Congress needs to give it. But will it? No, it won't. Free speech is as central to the American experiment as any concept is, and it's also as foreign to Twitter as ever it could be. We'll be right back after this. Don't go away.
Extendivite is more than just a heart tonic. Do you have any of these symptoms? Night cramps in the hands and feet. Your arms and legs often go to sleep. On short walks, do your legs get aches and pains? Is your memory worse than it used to be? Ankles that swell late in the day? Has your blood pressure increased lately? If you answered yes to even one of these questions, you may have early warning signs of arterial blockages. Your body is saying that it is time to take Extendivite. These are not the normal signs of aging. They are the warning signs that accompany blocked arteries. Get your Extendivite today. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Your home has needs. It needs a healthy, dry environment all year round. Start by getting rid of the worst air in the basement and crawl space, where the problems begin and make the whole house sick. Introducing the new Smart Wave Ventilation Unit. It has advanced technologies to continuously reduce moisture, mold, and odors, and expel radon, gases, and pollutants. And now, Wave units include carbon monoxide detection to automatically expel air at a high rate and send you an alert. It also has an app so you can remotely monitor the conditions. Wave is a comprehensive, maintenance-free, affordable solution that will transform your entire home. Protect your home and protect your family with needs. Give it a new Smart Wave Ventilation Unit. For more information, call 888-717-WAVE. That's 888-717-WAVE. Or go to dryhealthyhome.com. That's dryhealthyhome.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
For 5,000 years, the world was ruled with wooden ships by one man. 242 years ago, a small group of free men crafted a new nation built on liberty and freedom. Global elites have been fighting to destroy this new nation called America ever since. Based on actual events, Charm of Favor tells a true story of how they corrupted the election system. They infiltrated federal agencies and murdered witnesses, judges, and even presidents to keep from being caught. Now, the largest and wealthiest crime syndicate the world has ever known has been drawn out of the shadows. They've hundreds of Americans and recently attempted to assassinate half our congressmen. Still, they escape arrest through an almost supernatural charm of favor. Read Charm of Favor and be prepared to open your eyes to what may lie just around the corner. Charm of Favor is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
We are TFR.
My faith in destiny is all I need to prevail.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back. Final segment of America Free Radio tonight. Streaming to you live through the Truth Frequency Radio Network, where the Truth Freaks hang out. We're always proud to let our Truth Freak flag fly. We're also streaming live on Twitch, Periscope, Facebook Live, D-Live, and, of course, YouTube. And you can chat on all those formats, and I can see them all because I consolidate them all on one screen. We have a couple callers on hold. One's been there for a while. Let's go ahead and take Fargo, North Dakota. Welcome to the program. How are things up there? Have you have frost yet?
We have snow, Mr. Brooks, and what a pleasure it is always to have the opportunity to talk with you.
Marvelous.
This is Kevin, or Naysay, as
Hi,
I prefer
Kevin.
to go by.
Yes, I remember the days of Grand Forks, North Dakota, when I was in the 319th AMS. Winter comes early up there.
Oh, absolutely. And I was claiming as an enrolled Native American, or as I like to call Paleo American, we have certain signs that we look for. And most of the signs are saying, hey, get bundled up this winter because it may be a rough one.
Well, global cooling is upon us.
I apologize. There's a little bit of a delay, and so I don't mean to step on you. Forgive me. But I have a full spectrum relationship with you, Mr. Brooks, and it's positive and negative, I guess, depending on the perspective and the evening. The first of it is on Sunday nights, I try to prepare myself for the following week of the real stuff or the fake stuff
I
I have
know.
to get done for the week. And so when I get caught up listening to your show, I find myself not doing those things that I should be doing.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no, I do so enjoy it, and I wish I could have hours of conversation with you because I do really cherish your words, even though I don't agree with all of them. One question that I wanted to ask about, we talk about America being this light in the darkness, and I am a 100% service-connected veteran, dying or living with Gulf War illness, depending on your perspective. I'm also an enrolled Paleo American, and I'm also almost 50% of British descent. So I guess in the basic generalization of a true American, I would wave that flag proudly.
Right on.
But my challenge is, as a Native American and of the Anishinaabe tribe, or the Anishinaabe people, as I witness the experiences of what's going on in today's America, it is utterly confusing and distracting to the point of trying to make heads or tails of what is going on can take many precious moments away from the basic needs being fulfilled.
Well, that's the way they're trying to make it. They want to make it so confusing that everybody gives up. But it's actually very clear once you take a high altitude look at this. This is the global syndicate against America. It always has been. It has been for well over 240 years. It gets more complex because they want to make it complex. They want to come at you from several different angles and make it to where you think you can't understand it. But that's why we have America Free Radio, to make the difficult to understand simple to understand.
Well, I agree with that, but then there's so many different perspectives that you can look at it, because from my research and experience, that the powers that should not be, I believe, think, feel, have been in power for almost 5,000 years.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. When America was originally formed, it almost didn't make it. And literally, the founding fathers that were putting together realized that the forces that they were fighting go way back before Christ. And to establish a nation that allowed the people to actually decide what they wanted to be on their own and give them the freedom to own their own stuff, own their own corn, own their own house, own their own shop, do their own work, and then sell the surplus to make a living. That concept was totally foreign to planet Earth, and nobody even knew if it would work or not. That's how foreign it was.
Well, yes, I agree in that founding fathers' blueprint or plan. However, as stated, my ancestors were purposely wiped out for America to come into fruition.
Well, yes and no. I mean, they were wiped out because they occupied the property that other people wanted to occupy. Wars are fought on that principle since the earth cooled. But when you're talking about systemic government action, it was very early on. I would say as soon as the Democrats came to power in 1848, they began splitting the country apart this way. And remember, at that time, there were only 20 states. Only 20 states. It wasn't a full United States the way it is now. And the Native Americans were in perfectly fine shape in 1848. But what happened was, when the Democrats came to power, it was a foreign-influenced government. And the very first order of business was to split this country in half, which is what they did. It only took them 5 years to write the legislation to piss off the South so much that by 1860, they were gone. They were gone. 13 states decided to leave. And that they thought they'd won. They thought they had defeated America. At that point, America was finished. If it wasn't for Abraham Lincoln going to war with those Democrats to force the country back together, and believe me, he put congressmen in jail. He put congressmen in jail in order to accomplish it. That's how much at war with the Democrats he went. It was a terrible thing.
But
and
do you
America,
know how much,
a million
you know
Americans.
How much at war Lincoln? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, a million Americans lost their lives. A million Americans, not to mention the Native Americans that lost their lives during that.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up, because did you know that also Abraham Lincoln went to war against the indigenous people of North America? He definitely had disdain for the original inhabitants of North America.
You're absolutely right. You know, he wanted to push the borders, and he did, but he was trying to bring the country back together. And I'm sorry to say, but Lincoln was such a terrible diplomat. I mean, he was a fine statesman. He could make a hell of a speech, but he could not convince the South to come back into the Union because the Democrats controlled Congress, and they wouldn't let it happen. And it's been that way ever since 1848. The Democrats have been split. You know, I ask people this question, Kevin. The country's been around for a long time, some 244 years, 45 years, if you want to consider the convention. How many years of that total time has there been a Republican president, a Republican-controlled Senate, and a Republican-controlled Congress all at the same time? How many years would you say?
Years in total?
Yeah.
I would only make the assumption maybe 48.
If you include the first 2 years of Trump's presidency, which I will argue that he did not control the Senate was controlled by the Democrats, and the Congress was controlled by the Democrats because Paul Ryan actually worked for Nancy Pelosi. But if you include those first 2 years, 14 years. 14 years since the founding of this country has there been a Republican president, a Republican-controlled Senate, and a Republican-controlled House. The rest of the time, one or more of those bodies was controlled by Democrats. That's how aggressive they have been. That's how much control they have had over this government.
Well, I mean, I agree that the Democrats and the Republicans have been in control of this country going back and forth and pretty much its foundation on it. The challenge that I have is if you look at it from the full spectrum where we become polarized, that if they create the far left and they create the far right, then logically they're going to land somewhere in the middle for their ending result.
Well, it depends. The far right have been generally a cheek-turning people. They're peaceable. They like to wave flags. They like to go to football games. They like to go to church fundraisers. They're cheek-turning people. But the far left swing clubs. They shoot people in cold blood. They hunt down and hang people of the wrong color. They are a dangerous, violent, wicked people, and they've been around since the days.
But are you generalizing them?
Yeah, I suppose I am. The people that hollered Barabbas instead of Jesus are the same people that are burning our cities to the ground today.
Well, I hear the words you're sharing, but I would disagree, because I think a challenge that I get into is when we do start generalizing, and it's difficult because I do open mic comedy, and we use that generalization and that stereotype to laugh at ourselves to get people giggling. And it's a continuing challenge, because I would like to have faith and feel and think and believe that whether you're Democratic or you're Republican, when you go to work, you just want to get things done to where it's going to benefit you and those around you.
Yeah, and you want to go home afterwards and have a barbecue in your backyard with a beer with your neighbor. You want to go to the drag races or the air show or go fishing with your son. That's the far right wing? Yeah, it is. People that wear an American flag on their ball cap, that's the far right wing. Okay, I'll take it any day. But the people that put on a black mask and pick up a baseball bat and go beat somebody unconscious in the street simply because they're white, that's wrong. That's just wrong.
I agree. Well, this is why I like to always try to simplify it. I call it the Holy Trinity of positive, neutral, and negative. And if we get rid of all of the semantics of it and we just make it simplex, and we say, okay, is this a positive thing or a negative thing? And how positive is it for everyone? And then we kind of go from there. But when we get caught up with these buzzwords that immediately push us into a state of emotion, then where do our critical thinking skills go? And then caught up on top of that, the divide and conquer that we
I totally agree with that. I think the rage that you're talking about, this where people stop talking and all you see is the rage. You see their eyes bugging out and their teeth bared and their fists balled up. Nobody's communicating at that point. At that point, it's like, I either want to give up, surrender, go home, leave the streets and leave you to them, which is what happened to Seattle, or we're going to have to get bigger numbers and remove you from the street, which is what Trump did in Kenosha. If Trump had not gone into Kenosha, and Kenosha is already a war zone, you know that, but it's going to take years for it to recover. But if he didn't go in then, I doubt we would ever get Minnesota back. Trump's going to win Minnesota for the first time in almost 50 years because he saved Kenosha from the mob. And I think Seattle's gone.
Well, that is actually the state that I live in. I'm across the river in the Red River Valley, across the river from Fargo.
I love it.
But because of it being and actually that whole fiasco that occurred down there in Minneapolis, that was literally my stomping grounds. And the for generalizing it, the insanity that is going on today, although nothing surprises me because I've been in this truth movement for, since I learned about Gulf War illness back in 1992. I've been searching for the truth and finding out that more times than not, we haven't been told the truth.
I totally agree. I think there's so much of that going on in the agencies. And I was in the Air Force too, so believe me, I know exactly where you come from. Kevin, I want to talk more, but I have another caller on and I want to get them in. So I really, really appreciate the call. Please call back another time, okay?
You bet, Brooks. I really appreciate you and keep sharing your truth. You have a beautiful evening.
My pleasure, my friend. Stay warm up there. Okay, let's go to we got a caller from California. Let's take the call from California. How's it going out there? Is the state turning red or what?
I don't know. To be perfectly honest, it is not really mine to say. I don't really go out and socialize a whole lot, but I have to tell you, from what I see when I walk around, everyone's kind of low-key Trump fans.
Yeah, that's what I see too. So what's going on? What's on your mind?
Well, first of all, I just wanted to say, thank you for the content that you put out there. It's amazing. Just the way you articulate it, take ideas and wrap them all up and, stories. It's awesome. First on the Higher Side chat. And, I was hooked ever since. And
well, thank you very much.
With all of this talk about censorship and so much tonight, I just want to say that there's a certain, can't really say his name, but there's certain out there who is right now, whose name rhymes with Boston Schmeimarp, who said that this was going to happen. A wave of censorship was going to happen, and to start taking your video content and put that on DLive. So, I don't know. I just thought that was kind of a pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool. DLive is a little different of a platform. It's a blockchain format, and you have to have a certain number of followers in order to be able to do a certain number of things. That's why I was trying to get to 200 followers so that they would actually start curating some of the content, and people who don't see the live program can then see the replay of the program, but you can't get there until you get to 200 followers.
Gotcha. Okay. Right on. Well, I guess the main reason I tonight, I just really wanted to ask about, I guess, the value of gold in space travel and satellites and just kind of the whole space technology sector in general.
Sure.
Because I hear a lot of talk about space mining, and everybody wants to go grab all those metals and stuff that we think is precious on Earth. But what's actually precious to us once we're out there?
Water. Water is going to be worth its weight in gold, that's for sure. And there are big, giant frozen chunks of water out there. Gold and platinum are nice because, especially gold, because it's so malleable and because it makes such great connectors and great reflectors and things like that. And if you find a mountain, the size of Mount McKinley of solid gold in space, well, you don't want to bring it back to Earth. That would just ruin our economy. But it would be awesome to be able to use in space because you don't have to get really hot to work it. And you could actually build spacecraft or components of spacecraft in space or on Mars or on the moon because you have all this raw materials. The idea behind the space economy, we really haven't given much thought to until 2016. 2016, all of a sudden, all these private companies go popping on the scene, and we had basically three big risks. The first risk was there was no money partner in the business. So SoftBank got into it, and some of the other venture capitalists got into it. The second thing was that we had a common platform. We use Linux or different kinds of programming that's pretty common, so all the equipment can talk to one another. But it creates a vulnerability to hacking. Well, we can't solve that as private industry. We don't have the horsepower to do it. That's why President Trump put the Space Force in place. When he put the Space Force in place, it covered those three vulnerabilities: the fallback from pirates, from cyber hacking, and also some semblance of standardization in space. And I think it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Get governments to move out of the way and let the human race benefit from this explosion of technology and this new gold rush.
Yeah, it's exciting to hear about. It's exciting to, I don't know, talk about and kind of theorize. Shoot, that's all I have about it.
I like the idea of building
let's say we are going out into space.
Building a 1,000,000 kilogram space.
The first,
no, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. Let's say we are going out into space. And the first place we go to is, the moon for our helium-3.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to ask, have you ever heard of, I believe it's thorium and heavy water?
Yeah.
In any case, I would preface this by saying I was driving on the freeway one day, saw a Tesla with license plates that said thorium, so that might be the guy that made it. Thorium reaction.
Thorium is a really slow reaction, and it can make a good product, but it takes years. Like a thorium reaction will take 2 years to make a kilogram of plutonium. And the thorium batteries are they're heavy, and it's old technology. It really went out in the 50s. There's much better battery technology now, batteries that will last for 20 years to 50 years in space. And it's much more functional than thorium. Thorium is radioactive, yes, but it is an alpha decay, so it's not a terrifically high energy provider. It doesn't provide a lot of ions, and it is poisonous.
Okay. So significant drawbacks is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay.
The big key is going to be fusion rocketry. Once we get where we can fuse helium-3 together to make thrust, we cut the amount of time it takes to get from the moon to Mars from 7 months to 70 days.
Wow. Okay. I guess, that sounds like the best option. It's pretty cool.
Well, it opens up the Hohmann window, which is the window where you can leave Earth's orbit and fall into Mars's orbit. Right now, it's a small window. We only get a couple months a year that we can do it. And the other thing is you get artificial gravity going both directions, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I was listening to you talk about that previously. I was like, especially the one in reverse. I was like, I never would have thought of that, but that's pretty cool. Sorry, let me just detour one more place and I'll, I guess, kind of close with this. What do you think is going on with Antarctica and the To the Stars project and Tom DeLonge's role in it? Because I have to say, I did take the bait and I did give it a fair chance and, read all the books and there was some pretty cool stuff in there and, some just like, I guess, consciousness related things I didn't really know about. But, To the Stars is also associated with some guys who are associated with other people that don't look like they're doing too good. They might be, against our team, if you will. And so is that just a complete limited hangout?
Yeah.
Or is that something that could
be
real?
It is limited because you got to be affiliated to get down there, or you got to have a lot of money. One of the partners that we have on the North Pole Inner Earth expedition is Brad Olson. His expertise is in Antarctic and mine's in the Arctic, and we're trying to team up forces to make this expedition happen. We are thinking about, if we don't get down there this winter, we'll get down there next winter, to go down to Antarctica, but it's about $20,000 per person to do it. And we're only going to be able to take basically the government tour when we go, because there's no getting off the trail, if you know what I mean. So we're going to try to get as much as we can done in that. I don't really know a lot about it other than to say that it's a huge piece of property. It could take a lifetime to study it all. And I'm pretty sure there are secrets down there that nobody's telling.
Oh, for sure. I mean, see, kind of an open secret, if you will, is the Rothschild Island down there.
Yeah.
That one I thought was interesting. But in any case, I just wanted to say thank you for the answers. I find it endlessly cool, and keep doing what you do. I love it.
Excellent. Thank you so much for the call. Listen, Earth Explorers, go out and look for the good in others and help it to grow a little bit every day, and before long, you will have saved the planet. My name is Brooks Agnew, saying peace, Earth Explorers, and remember, where we go one, we go all. Together, 16 days, stay focused, vote in person. See you on Wednesday.